Hey y'all, it's Crystal. Thanks so much for coming by. Today I'm going to be doing a tag. This is the Edgar Allan Poe book tag. This was created by Kat over at Kat's Novel Adventures. If you're not watching her channel, you've got to be watching Kat. She's done some wonderful videos. She's newer to BookTube, but she has started off with a bang and has given us some wonderful videos so far, including already a tag. So she's a big Edgar Allan Poe fan, and so she celebrated his birthday here recently by doing this tag. And there's some great questions here, so I'm going to go ahead and do this. Let's jump right in. Ready? All right, so what was your introduction to Edgar Allan Poe? It was definitely in school. I don't remember what grade or anything, but we definitely read Edgar Allan Poe in school. I say probably definitely remember The Raven, probably, was one of the first ones. And Annabelle Lee, for sure. His poems, for sure. I do remember reading pretty early on, so I'll say that. All right, number 2. What is your favorite Edgar Allan Poe short story? I gotta go Telltale Heart here. I love this story. I've always loved this story. It's just something, this, you see this man just sort of losing it throughout the story, because he just can't live with his guilt. It's such a good story. It's such a good story. Okay, number 3. The rest of the questions are kind of based off of Poe stories, so they kind of have more of a theme to them. All right, so number 3 is Black Cat. Name a book with an animal that plays a significant role in the story. And how can I not mention Thor by Wayne Smith? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Thor is such a good boy. He is a German Shepherd who is watching over this family when their uncle comes to stay with him, but maybe the uncle is not what it seems, and Thor knows something is up, and he is going to protect this family at all costs. Oh, it's such a good story, and Thor is just amazing, and he you get some perspectives from Thor throughout the story, which I thought was really wonderful too. So Thor is such a good book. You've got to read it. Okay, number 4, The Man of the Crowd. Name a suspenseful book where a character is fascinated with stranger or strangers. So I went with Night Film by Marisha. I got books falling over. Night Film by Marisha Passel. I really love this story, and I got this guy who's really obsessed with a couple of strangers, one of which being this young woman who dies right kind of towards the beginning of the story, and the woman that dies is the daughter of this really sort of experimental kind of filmmaker who basically kind of went missing. Has been for 30 years or something like that, been living reclusively. Is he alive? Is he dead? People don't know, but this journalist, I think he's a journalist in here, but he is just totally obsessed with this filmmaker due to an interaction they had once upon a time. And so he gets, elbow deep into figuring out what happened to the daughter and how that's connected to this filmmaker and the old house where he's living. The filmmaker was living in at one time. It is the whole thing, and it definitely is suspenseful because you're trying to figure out what's going on too. And I really enjoyed this book, and I like it because throughout, people know, but it's got these little things throughout, some website pages, and you get newspaper articles, interesting photographs throughout, so it's super interesting. And if you ever want to read this book, make sure that you go to her website, because there's actually some audio clips that really add a little more to this story. So be sure you do that, because it tells you where they are as you're reading, and so you can go listen to something as it pertains to the story. Anyway, that's just a little tip if you ever read it. But I really like this book, and this man's definitely obsessed with strangers. All right, number 5, The Premature Burial. Name a book featuring a graveyard in the story or on the cover. And this one fell. My apologies. I I talked about this one here recently, but Wait Till Helen Comes by Mary Downing Hahn. There is a graveyard right there on the cover, but the graveyard also plays a big role in this story, as this family has moved into this new home, which used to actually be a church. And so because it was used to be a church, there's a graveyard on the property also. And maybe this little ghost girl named Helen lives in this graveyard, and how she connects with another of the little girls that has moved into the house. So the story goes from there. But this was really excellent middle grade book, and definitely graveyard is very important to the story. So go with that one. All right. Number 6, The Oval Portrait. Name a book where mirrors or paintings have magical or supernatural qualities. I had to go with Elizabeth by Ken Greenhall. I love this book, but Elizabeth definitely connects with something through a mirror. I think some of the older vintage copies have the mirror on the cover. I'll see if I can find one. But yeah, it's I'll just leave it at that because it's such a wonderful book. Elizabeth is really one of my favorite characters ever, because she's kind of crazy. I love it. Okay, number 7, The Murders in the Rue Morgue. Name your favorite book, story, or series with a detective or an amateur sleuth. And I had to think about this one because I don't read a lot of detective type stories, but I went with the Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep because we've got Decker there who that's what he does. He finds rogue robots because they're not supposed to be on Earth anymore. And we follow him as he's tracking them down, and the story kind of goes from there. I love this book. I was surprised when I read this book that I loved it so much. And I read it twice now because I really love this book. And Decker, he's a detective. I mean, really, he's trying to make his life better, the best he can in this world that exists. So we went with that one. Number 8, The Masque of the Red Death. Name an apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic book where people have been impacted by a plague or a virus. There's lots of those, and I love a lot of those. But I went with The Passage for this one. The Passage by Justin Cronin. It's definitely a virus type of story. So in the beginning, we follow this sort of, kind of group of people as they're somewhere down in South America, I would think, and they get affected by some bats, and it just starts this whirlwind virus that just tears ass through the world, and definitely takes out most of the population. And so we're following this story as this young girl who is maybe it has a key to kind of a better future. Maybe she has an immunity, that kind of thing. So we're following people there's different sorts of people trying to get their hands on this little girl, and it does kind of move forward through time a bit, also 100 years, and we see the world as it exists, as these sort of remnants of humanity are clinging on, because maybe this virus has turned a lot of people into vampires. It's such a good series. The whole trilogy is fantastic, but this The Passage kicks it off, and kicks it off with a bang. I really love that book. Okay, number 9, The Pit and the Pendulum. Another great story. But name a genre that is torturous for you to read. I had to think about this because I don't really necessarily find anything very torturous. I know Kat mentioned romance, but I read romance. I don't mind romance. But so I thought about this, and I had to really think about this one. I went with religious type books. If the book has some really overly religious things in it, it is just not my jam, because I'm not a religious person. So a lot of it's just not stuff I want to read. No offense to anyone, of course, but so any kind of overly religious books, I'm not going to read them. And if I say have to read one because I'm being tortured, it will definitely be torturous for me. Okay, number 10, The Fall of the House of Usher. Name your favorite gothic fiction book. And I went with one of my favorite books ever is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I love this book. I love this book so much. I love Mary Cat. She's also another, like, just one of my favorite characters ever is Mary Cat. And we follow this family. It's Mary Cat and her sister, and they have a sort of elderly uncle, and they live in this house that's very gothic feeling. It's sort of old. It's possibly falling down a little bit, and they're kind of outcasts in their community because a lot of their family members have died, and we just figure out why. And I just love it. Definitely gothic and creepy. I love it. Love that book so much. Okay, number 11, The Cask of Amontillado. Name a book with an unreliable narrator. So I had to go with Black Leopard, Red Wolf here by Marlon James. My man Tracker. I love him. This is a fantasy novel, but Tracker is who we follow in this book, and yeah, he's a little unreliable. You don't really know if the things that he's saying are true even. Like, did this really happen? Because he's kind of telling us a story, you know. Is this really what happened? You kind of don't really know. and I just kind of love that about him. And I love that about this book. Yeah, I love this book. And it's a little bit... It's a different kind of fantasy story than the way that it's told. But it's one of those, if you just stick to it, it's wonderful. It's a fantastic story. But Tracker, yeah, my man is unreliable for sure. Okay, number 12, here's the Telltale Heart. Name a book with body horror in it. So I went more with just an author in general. Brian Boyer's my man for this. Yeah, if you don't mind, you know, people dying and usually dying in really harsh ways, he's the author for you. But he's also, the way he writes, it's just, I can't even describe it really. It's just unputdownable also at the same time. And like, no one is safe. You don't fall in love with any characters when you read a Brian Boyer book, because they're probably not going to make it. And that includes kids and women. So, you know, these are more leaning to the extreme horror side of things. But I absolutely love Brian's writing. He is straight and to the point. But I just devour these books because I just can't put them down because they're so good. And he just writes a hell of a story. So Sinister Mix is a collection of short stories which are phenomenal. Autumn Gothic is a novel, but Lord, everything happens in here, so it's so good. So yeah, Brian Boyer, just in general as an author, is going to give you some really good body horror. All right, and number 13 is, of course, tag some fellow fans of Poe. And so I'm gonna tag Bragg Proctor, because I think he likes Poe, and maybe you would like to do a tag video. Brad, I haven't seen a video from you in a while. Let's tag Mindy over at Mindy's Book Journey. Let's tag Greg over at Another Bibliophile Reads. I bet maybe he's a Poe fan. And how about MJ from Reading This Life? So I'll tag you, and of course tag you if you want to do this. If you're a fan of Poe, go ahead and do this tag. It was pretty fun, actually. Some really good questions that you thought of, Kat. So thanks again, Kat, for creating the tag and for tagging me. And yeah, that's it. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Always appreciate your time. It always means a lot. And I hope you're doing well. Until next time.